Here is what I read in the month of October. Hey everyone, Maria here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would take you through all the books that I read in the month of October. I also have one of these little microphones now and I feel so professional. I'm going to talk you through what the books are about in case you want to pick them up for yourself and you want to give them a read. I'll give you the ratings that I gave them and why I have the opinions on them that I do. This is also going to be completely spoiler free as well. So let's get into it. In the month of October, I read 3 books. I read one fantasy, one horror/thriller, and then another thriller as well. First up is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. And this has been on my TBR since June last year. And I can't believe I only just picked this up. I've been wanting to read this for quite a long time. This is a fantasy and it sits at 566 pages. The story follows our 2 main characters, Eva and Livira. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It could be Livira, but in my head, I said Livira. Livira is a young child and she is taken away from her home out in the desert known as the Dust. She is dragged away and is forced to work in a library out in the city and is also trained up to be a librarian. Eva is young 20s and is actually trapped in a library with only a handful of people he's ever known his whole life, and they've never been able to escape. They don't even know why they're there. When I was reading this, I thought, how cool would it be to be trapped in a library, surrounded by books? As book lovers, sounds like a dream, right? But actually reading Eva's point of view, kind of isolating. Both of these characters are very much drawn to something, and both of them don't quite figure out how to get to this thing that they're drawn to, but we follow their journey on how they actually get to where they need to get to. To be honest, I just love how there's books in a book. I just think it's so cool, and the way that this library is described, I would absolutely love to go there. So I actually rated this book 5 stars, and here are all my positives because I really did enjoy this book. First off, let's talk about the world building and its world setting. I absolutely love that the fact that this book is set in a library. The way that this library is described as well is just so magical and mystical. And despite the fact that Eva is trapped and he's never been able to escape from this one room in this library, I can't help but feel like I really want to go and explore this. The story is set in just a few amount of places. There's kind of the desert at the very start where Livira used to live, and then it kind of goes into just the city. But overall, it's still a very magical and mystical place, and it's not so heavy that you feel like it's dragging, and I love that. Another thing I absolutely loved about this book were the characters in this as well. I loved Eva and I loved Livira, both for very different reasons. I love how we watch Livira grow up from being this really small, kind of seen as very annoying child to a really strong and independent female lead. She's just so cool and she kind of has all these questions, but she's just so adventurous, and I don't know, there's just something about her that I'm really drawn to. I just think she's a really great character and has so much personality in this book. Eva is very different. He's very shy, he's not very outgoing, he's only known a handful of people his whole life, so it's very kind of understandable that he's quite secluded to his own feelings, but oh my goodness, he's just so sweet, and I love how we get to see him develop in his character as the story goes on. I genuinely love both of these characters so much. I also love Mark's writing style as well. He just has a way with words and he can make everything sound so magical. It's just so cool. I just overall love the direction that this story went in. It was just so unique. This is quite a big book for me. For me personally, anything over maybe 400, 500 pages, it does take me quite some time to get through. I'm not the fastest reader. However, I personally enjoyed every single chapter in this book. There were definitely a few where the pace did slow down, but all of those chapters were still extremely relevant to the story, if that makes sense. At least that's how I personally felt. But overall, an amazing book, and I cannot wait to read the next one. Next is Let's Split Up by Bill Wood, and this is a horror/mystery thriller. 2 popular high school students are brutally unalived whilst filming at a local manor which they thought was abandoned. However, a lot of people don't seem to think that this is the case. Where it's such a small town and nothing bad ever happens, the police are really stumped and they can't figure out and solve what's going on because they are just not used to having to solve anything before. That is where our 4 teenage main characters take it upon themselves to solve these murders because, let's just say, things are getting a lot worse. I gave this story 5 stars and oh my goodness, I loved it so much. It's great for spooky season, don't get me wrong, but it is also just amazing for all year round. So if you're looking for a really good horror/thriller that is also YA, I definitely recommend this one. I absolutely love the world building and the world setting in this book. I love anything that is kind of small town where nothing really happens and then all of a sudden everything goes downhill. I also just love how everything is described in this book as well. It's so eerie and so mysterious. I was hooked. I also absolutely loved the characters in this book as well. They all just had such unique personalities and they all worked together so well. You can just really tell that they were a good group of friends. And I also loved how there is a character that is new to the group. So there's that uneasiness of, ooh, who is this mysterious person who's just joined our friendship group? They were all super unique and worked really well. I also loved the representations in this book as well. There's queer, there was bi, but I just loved how the characters worked together. They were so cool. I also absolutely loved the nostalgic vibes in this book as well because it is set in the 2000s. It's just got that late 90s, early 2000s horror, eerie vibe to it. Really nostalgic, really retro. Really cool. And for me personally, I did not see the plot twist come in. Sometimes I get it straight away, sometimes I don't, but this one personally went right through me. I did not know. And for me personally, that meant that it was really exciting. It was really gripping. I genuinely loved this book so much and I cannot wait for the next one. Up next, we have None of This Is True by Lisa Joelle. I really hope I said that right. And this is a thriller. Story follows our two female main characters, Alex and Josie. Alex is a podcaster who does stories on inspirational women, and she's very well known in London, and Josie is a seamstress. One day, they are both out celebrating their 45th birthday, and they bump into each other in the bathroom, and that is when they get talking about how it's cool they share the same birthday, and they find out they're born from the same place as well, and they just see this as a really cool coincidence, and they just get chatting. The more they talk, that is when Josie realizes she's really interested in Alex and she really wants to be on one of her podcasts, so they decide to form a project where Alex explores Josie's life. However, that is when Alex starts discovering some really dark things about Josie and her past and also her life as it is now. Overall, I did give this story 3 stars, and there are a couple of reasons as to why I didn't get along with this book as much as I wanted to. But first of all, let's talk about the positives. I genuinely was gripped from the get-go, and to me personally, every page was a turner. Something was always going on. Overall, I did just genuinely want to find out what the heck was going on, and it did feel like something was always going to happen pretty soon. Another thing I also really enjoyed about this book as well is the writing style, because I loved how there was kind of Netflix documentary implementations. For example, every now and then in some chapters, it will say screen fades from black, girl sat on the couch, then it will show their name and some dialogue from an interview, and it just fits really well with the overall story. So you know that you're at some point in the future listening to this documentary, and then it will chuck you back to the present where they're going on with the podcasts and stuff. So you know something is going to happen, or has happened, should I say, but then you're going back to finding out what is occurring at that time. I just thought it was really cool and fit really well with the podcast theme and everything. It worked really well. I also just really enjoyed the characters in this book as well. A lot of them did bring something to the story, and I also loved how there were a couple of characters who I didn't think were going to be relevant, but ended up being relevant, and I love that. However, that being said, there were a couple of things that didn't sit quite right with me. First things first is that it's an open-ended story, which means you don't really understand who is telling the truth and who is lying. At first, I thought this was really cool, and I kind of saw this as, well, we get to interpret it how we want to, we're never going to know who did it, but this also kind of really upset me at the same time, because I wish I just got to know who did it so I could come away feeling less empty, I guess. However, I am still deciding about this point, because part of me does love open-ended things. It creates more mystery, if anything, but at the same time, it is also bugging me a little bit. And then the other thing that I didn't get along with personally was one of the characters in this book. It wasn't a main character, but they were in the story a lot and did, I guess, play a big part, if that makes sense. There is essentially a character in the story who is written as being a really nice person, a great person, but they're just really not. They are awful. And I don't like how they were played off as this really nicey character. It just kind of gave me the ick a little bit. I didn't like it. But overall, the story itself was gripping. It was interesting. I just don't think it gripped me as a whole when it came to the ending of this story. I don't know, just felt like something wasn't quite there. So yeah, those are the books that I read in the month of October. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books yourself, and tell me what your favorite read of October was. Thank you so much for being here. It really does mean everything to me, and I hope you are enjoying your stay, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!